Greetings and welcome to Fun with Dashcams. This is video for Charlie. I'm titled this Fun with Dashcams, being on a budget but not necessarily on a shoestring. And this is actually more of a cautionary tale about cheap cameras. They can be had, they're very abundant, but there are some things you should know, and it may fall into your design philosophy for your system or your needs or your budget, but there are some things that you're going to give up. So just like in the previous example with the Garmin Dashcam 20, we were looking more at the high end of what was available here in a retail fashion in the United States. Now we're looking at what's available, at least as of 6 months ago when I started this little project in my hobby, on the low end, and probably maybe a little bit more pervasive, which is unfortunate, but again, with all technologies, price will come down. But in a retail fashion, this is an example of what I could find on the low end. So the model we're going to review is the METRA Raptor AW DC Cam. Kind of a funny name, but that's really what it's called. It's called the METRA Raptor. It's got a little splash screen. That's pretty much all you can tell about the camera, and we're going to discover something about it in a moment. We're going to cover the features. We're going to cover what you can glean from this is the good, perhaps what you can glean from this is the bad, and wrap it up with a not so ugly. Understand this is going to be a very short video. So the packaging that it came with, and it was literally a regular bubble wrap type packaging, knows it as the AW DC Cam. The back of the packaging, again, that I saved, lists it as the B-AW DC Cam from 2013, so December 2013. So about a little over a year old, according to this. So about a year long that they've had this in their product line. First off, let's understand that METRA is a reseller. They don't make anything on their own, but they are a reseller of many medium to high-end, not necessarily budget, some maybe, but mostly related to automotive audio systems, and maybe certain automotive accessories. I mean, they do. METRA is a big name for in-car AV, sound systems, in-dash video, a lot of products like that. This was just an interesting offering that they kind of kludged in under their AV. In fact, I couldn't even really find it on their website. I did find it interesting, though, that this also came up, this exact same camera came up as the S-Cam, and this is the full name. The S-Cam 2.5-inch HD car LED IR vehicle DVR with night vision, road dash video camera recorder, traffic night vision. Oh my gosh, that's a long-ass name. Not really a name. They're trying to kludge every single thing they can about the camera in the description, just saying this is what it is. The S-Cam model whatever, cheapy dash cam, for the budget conscious. In fact, it is a very generic dash cam. It's I've actually seen it labeled as an original car DVR. This is probably, even though the packaging says that it entered their product line about 12/12/2013, the truth is that this camera has been out there for a very long time. It's basically the guts of a webcam shoved in with an SD card reader. And when I say webcam, I mean like early 2000s webcam, and you're going to see that in a second when we discuss the particulars of this camera. It's very cheap. It goes by many other names, but it's very cheap, and this particular posting for it as the S-Cam camera was $25. Where is it? But anyways, about $25 to be purchased online from Amazon. And I'm sure you'll find other versions of this by other names or no name at all, just the generic dash cam. And the cautionary tale, remember, you get what you pay for. So $25, let's see what we get for $25. So first off, it came basically as if it was labeled for a retail shelf. There was the front, this is the back. It came with, of course, owner's manual. Came with I thought this was kind of interesting. A 1/4 inch. You've probably seen this mount before. 1/4 inch standard posts. You can actually get these individually online for like $3 to $5, maybe $6. I've seen them for as high as $10, but typically $5 to $6 a mount. It actually did come with a 2 gig SD card, so depending upon your video settings, you may actually get anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes of video, depending, maybe a little bit more if you go for the low-res option, but you're going to understand in a minute that it really doesn't matter with this camera. And of course you get the camera itself. And, also, you actually do get a nice length. It's about a 3 meter, about a 10-foot barrel type DC, 12 volt DC to 1 amp 12 volt adapter. So, about the camera, it has a basic CCD. It's basically when you think at CCD, think of an old webcam you had, a 0.3 inch CCD CMOS type from way back when, from early, say 2004, 2005, when they started to say that they could reach near Super VGA sizes. It's not a true VGA size, Super VGA, but it does handle VGA quality video, kind of. It is a older chipset. They've been sold for a long time, and they're probably a lot floating out there still today. Like I found mine several months ago. Has a 100-degree viewing angle. I thought this was kind of funny. Where is that? When you get into the specifications, like I said, for the S-Cam, and this is the same camera, and you'll see in a second. In fact, I'll show you. Right here, they say that you have a super wide-angle 120-degree lens. Yet right here says you have a 100-degree wide-angle lens. So in truth, it's a 100-degree angle lens, 100-degree view angle. It has all the basics that you would have for a dash cam. In fact, being probably one of the first types that were available way back when, 7-8 years ago. It has record on power. It actually does have auto power off, which when I first got it, I wasn't even sure it had it because it never seemed to work. Recently, I tried it out again after it's sitting in a shelf for about 6 months, and I did actually determine it does have auto power off. It just takes a while. There's no way to set it, and unlike you saw some of the taxi cams we saw in video 2, this is kind of indeterminate. I've seen it shut down in about 30 seconds. I've seen it shut down in about 4 minutes. The problem is it just keeps recording. There's no way really to set that, and there's no way really to regulate it. It didn't really have a rhyme or reason. I had one video that actually did shut off at about 2 minutes, which seems to be the average, but I have tried a couple times over the last week, and it never really makes a difference. It picks a time in which it's going to shut off, and that's it. So I don't know what it's doing. Maybe it's waiting until that video segment is recorded and then it shuts off. It actually does have an external battery. I thought that was kind of interesting. An external battery. Like I said, very similar. No integral battery. And it does support loop recording, and supports a surprising feature, which is like a 10-minute, 15-minute loop recording. So that I thought was kind of interesting. It records in what it claims is 1280 by 960. I will include at the last half of this video examples of it in the different resolutions. Of course, it will be scaled down to 1280, but you will see right away that this is not a high-quality camera. The CMOS is extremely finicky and not very... it's cheap. Okay, what can I say? It doesn't really capture any detail. And in fact, this is an interpolated standard. It's actually 740 by 480. I've recorded this, taken some snapshots, and then scaled them down, and I haven't seen a difference in quality. The best I can figure is that its native resolution is actually somewhere about 740 by 480, and then they scale it up, and here they just shave it down a little bit to make it conform to 640 by 480, and that perhaps may be the difference in the view angle that it's advertising. Is it may have a physical view angle but it shaves it off a little bit to get 640 by 480. Maybe that's the 100 degrees, but truthfully I think it's about 100 degrees native. It does have IR LEDs on the front, which, as you've heard myself and many others online discuss, that is pretty much useless unless you're using it. If you review for Bravo unique applications, this might be something that you would consider for a unique application like a security camera. It's not going to be used as a dash cam to record what's going on in front of the car or behind the car, but maybe something that's going on inside the car or inside a storage cab, something of that nature. So this may actually be an option for that. And in that case, the IR LEDs actually do provide a little bit of illumination. It's about on par with the very tiny ones that you saw in the taxi cams, like in the R310. It gave about as much illumination, even though it has 6 LEDs. It actually advertises it has 4 times digital zoom, but with a really crappy CCD. Your digital zoom is just interpolating pixels to make what's already garbage even look worse. So it's best not to use that. All you're doing is you would rather take advantage of the natural resolution of the CCD as best you can. This is only going to inflate the issue. It has no G sensor, therefore it's no autosave. That I could tell. And but one thing is nice is it does have a 2.5 inch, but it's standard resolution. And that's what you should also remember about this, is these are kind of standard resolutions. Even though this is a little expanded, this is a little expanded, it's still not HD. So the screen does flip around. Now I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. When it says 270 degrees, it means three ways times 90 degrees. So it is nice because not only can you mount it flat, but you could say mount it from the side, and you could possibly, mount it from the top. And this is actually the proper position, is to mount it from the top and have it hanging off the windscreen. So it's nice that it allows you to rotate the screen so that whoever's say watching the video or doing the setup can then access it. It is. I list here that it's a original dash cam, and that's what's interesting is the shape. Looks very reminiscent of a radar detector, and so that will kind of go forward in deciding how you want to mount it. But that's your own. So what can I say that's good about it? It records. I did try a couple things. I tried to unplug and plug. It's kind of finicky with the power. It'll sometimes get confused if you cycle the power on and off a few times, but in theory your power should be on or it should be off in your car. With stable power, it seems to work fine, and it in fact does record AV. And it is cheap, so dash cams on a budget, it might be a consideration for you. $25, $30 versus something else. You might be looking at building a multiple camera system. Second point is it's a very familiar shape. Like I said, kind of looks eerily similar to a radar detector, so it can be rather innocuous. In the Hawthorne effect, people will react differently when they know they're being recorded, when they know they're being monitored. And having a dash cam in the event of, say, a road rage incident, you don't want to necessarily tell them that you have a dash cam. You would rather let them go ahead and do what they're going to do, and you can capture them on camera. They would easily mistake this for a radar detector if they saw it through the window. It does have a built-in screen. That's a plus. It also has an AV out. On a lot of your cheaper cameras, that doesn't exist. In fact, if you remember going back to the taxi cams, $50 to $60, that was one of the things they traded off. They did not have an output. If you wanted to view the camera, either you don't dismount the camera, but it's an option to have, like if you wanted to mount a monitor in the car somewhere for later reviewing, or if you're, say, a trucker who has a TV monitor, you could run an extra RCA type jack from here to your TV, your AV jack, and it uses a standard 1.5 mil to RCA for TV out. Now, it did not come with a cord like that, but I've already tried one that I had previously, and it seemed to work. I seemed to get both audio and video, and you had pretty much the resolution you had on the screen. Using standard component, not composite, but standard RCA component. It does record an MJPEG, which, as you know, is an indicator that the video encoder in this camera is very, very low powered. MJPEG is very easy to render, so it's cheap and easy. It does record up to 32 gigs. Some of your older dash cams, especially some of the originals, would not record in SDHC, whereas this one will. In fact, here is one of the original SDHC cards I had. It is a Class 4. It would be an example, and this is actually what I used in the testing to see, putting in a cheap slow-speed card, how that would affect it. Now, you're probably not going to find too many, but if you get a lot of your Christmas specials, holiday special type cards that are very cheap, $2 to $3, wow, look, all this space. The downside is you're getting something that's probably a Class 4, which is something you want to avoid at all costs in a dash cam, and this thing is extremely sensitive to that. But it does accept up to 32 gigs, like most other dash cams as of this recording, as of January 2015. And it does everything that a basic dash cam does. Auto power on, loop recording, auto power off, and records AV. And it has a beaker and it has a screen, so you can do basic playback. So that's what I can figure is good. What can I say is bad about it? It's barely passable video. You will see in the examples that I will include at the end of this, non-existent low light recording. It's not even, unless you're using it as an internal camera and you're going to use the IR lights, the sensitivity on this thing is near non-existent. It can't read anything in a low light condition or a dark condition. In fact, an hour and a half before dusk, just like you saw in the previous example of a very nice camera with a very good quality CCD, this thing looked almost like it was nightfall. Whereas the other one was actually still reading. You could still read license plates, still read road signs, still see what was going on, at least catch the make and model of the car. This thing pretty much blurred out to indeterminability. You could tell that something was there. So not really good for low light unless you're using strictly as a forward-facing camera with very bright front-facing lights, or unless you're using it as an interior security camera, like I said, in special applications, with the intent of using the IR lights. It's not HD. It's marketed as 1280 by 960, but it's interpolated. That shouldn't even be listed on there. They shouldn't even allow it. But and there's really no point. You don't really gain anything other than just making a bigger image. You get about the same detail at the middle setting of the 7 whatever that was, 720 by 480. It's cheap. Anything that's any kind of card, like I said, was cheap, slow, or old. Like here, 7-year-old SDHC may not work. Even though it says it supports up to 15 megabytes per second, the video stream that I was recording should record about 9 megabytes per second, but the camera still was real finicky and didn't like it. So you're probably going to have to fork over a little bit more money, unless you're going to go for, like, say, a lower resolution, the 960. The 960, the 720 settings 720 by 480 seem to handle the card just fine, just like 640 by 480. That had no problems. I had passable video, passable quality, didn't really lose a frame or two, maybe lost one or two. So if you're designing this on a budget, this is all you can get your hands on. You can probably get away with also, as well as maybe going a little cheaper on the SD cards, but that's your decision. You know, if you have a couple old SD cards on hand, this may foot the bill, but I would still say test them to make sure they're at least fast enough for this kind of application. You need at least 12 megabytes or megabits per second. Something like this should actually help you on that middle setting. Downside, of course, 100-degree angle, very restricted view. Most dash cams are typically going to be about 120 degrees. If it's 100 degrees, you're really not seeing much. That's barely more than what your eyes naturally focus with binocular vision. So I could go on, but you get the point. It's very basic. So the not so good part, it is cheap. You could buy many of these. See, like, say for this, at the time of a purchase, being retail, just going on that experiment, what could I get my hands on just driving in someplace? I ended up going to a truck stop. I got this for about $50. Now, in truth, I paid double what I should have, which shows you the state of affairs of how dash cams are in the U.S. currently. A lot of models you see online that are for $80, $100, you'll see about $150 to $200. Basically a 1/3 to 1/2 markup as in retail here in any stores in the U.S. But But, you know, prices on these have come down. I actually saw one of these for about 30 bucks not too long ago. So it's an option. Put a couple of these together. You could actually have a multi-camera system on the cheap for about the cost of one really good, nice one only facing in the forward direction. You could actually maybe get a decent front one and then use these for security cameras elsewhere, especially since the fact that they have new, very good IR LEDs. It may be the only thing you can get your hands on. I know in many parts of the U.S. they just don't have high-speed internet, so they don't have access to Amazon and eBay, which is where the majority of dash cams are sold on the U.S. market. So you may have to drive, and that's why I say, you know, go to your truck stop. That's why I say it's readily, where they are readily available, truck stops. Maybe sometimes at an electronics store, but typically you may find one of these on the shelf if they even have one at all. But you will find them typically in Love's or up in Big Cabin in Oklahoma or other major truck stops. They'll be a little overpriced, but you know, at least you got something. If you know, it's better. You know, it's better to have something than nothing at all. Warranty, forget it. You got what you got. Treat it like it's glass, and it might actually last. Software options, there are no real software options. It's recorded as JPEG. You pull the files off. In fact, even the instructions aren't really instructions at all. They really just cover the menu settings is all they really do. They do cover some basic information on the device. But other than that, like I said, it's still a toss-up to determine if it's really 100 degrees versus 120 degrees on the CMOS. It probably is 120 in the higher resolution, but I can't really tell. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's still very restricted in what you can see, and it's very poor video compared to your 720p cameras. I mean, real 720p cameras, not scaled up from 640. And we'll go ahead and go into the video samples. So taking a little walk around the camera, first off, as I said, you know, it's a very similar shape. Has a 1/4 inch mount at the top to be used with a sucker mount, window suction cup, with a standard 1/4 inch for a typical camcorder. Power's on the side, so your typical mount is going to look something like this in a top view hanging off, and this can be then run through the soffits, through the panels in your car or truck. So you have pretty good freedom as to where you want to mount it. So looking at the top, it actually does have an external battery, which is nice. It actually does give you quite a bit of recording. So I guess that's something that can be said for it, is it does give you an option for up to 15-minute segments, and I think the camera actually might, the camera battery might actually survive. So looking at the front, you have between a 100 and 120 degree lens, view aperture depending upon what resolution it is. It's hard to tell much of a difference when you look at it. 6 normal IR LEDs. These are the same kind of IR LEDs you'd find on your TV remote. They're very low power, but they do provide a little bit of decent amount of illumination considering the cost, and particularly if you have it in a closed space, it actually works. So power. Here you have a full-size SD port. So for demonstration, not a micro SD like you normally see in most cameras nowadays. So it kind of lets you know what the lineage of this thing is. The design was a very old design, kind of based on the shape and form factor and similar size to a radar detector or LiDAR detector or something like that. On this side is actually where your outputs are. The idea would be that you're going to keep an SD card permanently installed, not just taking it out all the time. And you would then use, I guess, AV out, or if you wanted to connect this to some type of a monitor, a video monitor in your vehicle, it uses RCA component out, video and audio. It'll use a 3-banded 1.5 mil connector, goes in there, that goes out to an RCA white and RCA yellow, yellow for video, white for monaural right left channel audio. And it actually does support USB. It's not just power. It will power up, but it does support USB data mode in a standard mini USB connector. So now going to the back side, these are your two primary buttons. This is actually your record and OK button. It's a selector button, but when recording, it turns recording on and off for video, and in the camera function, it takes the picture. Of course, power. This is only used to power the unit on and off. Press and hold for power on, press and hold for power off. I know this is upside down. These are where your menu buttons are. You actually have other cameras. There's a camera that looks very similar to this, and it might actually be made by the same company. I'm not real sure. Called the DV-XX7, the DV-007, DV-027, DV-047, DV-207. It's a very similar camera, but I believe that it uses, I believe it's the Zocon or the Zoron. I forgot, but it uses a video processor that's a little bit different than this. I think this is actually considered a knockoff of that, so that's why I say it's overpriced, and that's why you can get it for real cheap. But that camera actually is a true 720 HD, and they have models that support up to 1080p, true 1080p nowadays within the last year. Anything newer than or older than 2014, I would say, is probably just going to be standard 720, and the rest is interpolated. So that's how you can tell this, because this does not have any selector buttons on the side, and the SD doesn't go in the back. It's the main buttons, power and recorder, on the back, and you actually have your other 6 buttons, your menu selections, up, down, and your mode, operational menu, so camera, video, or menu mode, or I mean playback mode. So and the fact that you can rotate it different directions. It is a handy feature. You can in fact rotate it all the way around and have it sitting like this if you want, or you could mount it upside down and, you know, have this sitting on the dash and have this kind of playing back. Unfortunately, you don't have the ability to flip the screen, so you know it's purely useful as to how you want to mount it. But typically, and one thing to note is the screen does not automatically turn off. In fact, it never does. But the fact that it closes, and yeah, 2 little notches here, so you actually put your fingers here and get a nice little grip on the side of the screen. But the monitor never turns off. So the fact that it closes in nice and tight does kind of help, because it's not, in very dark conditions you'll actually see a little bit of the glow around the edge, but typically you can't see it. So it's kind of advantageous. So see, we can get on, as you can see, it says Raptor. And we'll just kind of go through the menu options. So as you can see right now, immediately it is recording. It's recording the base of the lamp. It's currently set as D1, which is the middle mode. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it recording for the time being. It's now in camera mode. And if I hit the record button, it actually does record. You see it flickers with the image and then it stops. Hit the next mode. Come on. And now we're in playback mode. So I'm just flipping through up and down the different pictures I took, and it gives you a little option here. It actually tells you resolution, time, and the fact that it's a video. So if I hit the record button or OK button here again, it'll actually record that, what I just played when I was fiddling around with it when I first turned it on. And of course pause, play and pause, and up down just takes you to the next video. So come on, going back. So going back to camera mode, you know, like I said it before, it's auto record, it's record on power. Otherwise, you can manually record. And what's nice is it actually does show you time you have left on the card, so it's not too bad. It does do a green date timestamp up here. And one thing I did notice is when the camera freezes up, it automatically resets itself. So this one went through its own reset. Originally, the date was set proper at 2015, but then it rolled it back to its original production date of November, it says now November 25th, 2012. So I assume that that is at or about the time of its manufacture, the time it's released. So you're looking at a camera that's at least 2 years going on 3 years old. But it still was a budget camera even for this, and the fact that it has that green label and not a yellow label, a solid orange or solid yellow leads me to believe that it might actually be a knockoff of some other knockoff of the actual DV-007. So here's the menu. I went ahead and put, the menu is kind of strange in that it brings you straight into the basic video menu options. So selecting here, we have 3 different sizes of SXGA, a very strange VGA derivative. D1, which was the first technical high definition, which really wasn't, but a little bit better than VGA 720 by 480 and basic VGA. So let's just leave it at 720 by 480. That seems to be the best mode for this one. Exposure, you can, come on, get out of there. Exposure can be set in increments of 1/3. Leaving it at 0 is basically auto. It's not really auto, it just leaves it at 0. White balance, it gives you a lot of the basic. You'll see daylight, cloudy, tungsten. You can just leave it as is. Date timestamp, you can have date only, date and time, or off. It's always better just to leave it date time. Oh, by the way, I should mention that this same format that you see of the menu is probably similar to what you're going to see on some of the carbon cameras. I've noticed that is they seem to have the same chassis but put different guts in there, and I'm not exactly sure I understand why, but I've noticed on one of the carboons, I think it's the carbon F30, which is a very common one. The F20 is not quite as popular or quite as common as the F30, but it seems the F30 has this menu structure, so it might be indicative of that it's using this same video processor. It actually does support motion detection, but it's not really that good. It lags. Probably by the time somebody hits you or something walked in front, it would have or they would have already driven on by then. So audio, you do have an option for on or off. And this is actually what I thought was kind of interesting. You have your ratings are 3, 5, and 15 minutes. Or excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 5, and up to 15 minutes. And that was kind of interesting. I think that the best is to keep it at 3. You know, you decide what you want to do, but 3 minutes. You don't. If the camera goes dark, you don't want it to lose it. If you want to be absolutely paranoid, you can record at 1 minute increments to make absolutely sure that there's plenty of charge left in the battery. But I still think that 3 minutes, it seems to be survivable. 5 minutes, I think maybe pushing it. 15 minutes might be playing Russian roulette with this thing, but I have a feeling that the camera battery, if it's new, might actually survive. But like all things, not everything lasts forever. Oh yeah, and the fact this is video time is loop recording. That's nothing to note. Is if you turn that off, it's just a straight recorder, and once it hits the end of the SD card, it gives up. It stops recording. It just drops out into just a regular mode, no more recording, and you'll just see it sitting there. So at this point, we can now go into the other menu once we hit exit, and this is the main menu. So we can format the card. Again, that famous beep option, whether we want to hear the beep as we're pushing the buttons on or off. Language setting is all your typical European, plus it has a couple versions of Chinese and Korean. Or did it have Korean? Yeah, there you go, Hangul. So all that you'd normally expect. I would just leave it on the native English unless you have a different language you speak. System reset is just that. Do you want to do a factory reset on it? I will cancel. Oh, I just did. There we go. And your, light, of course, 50, 60 hertz. I thought this is funny. It actually does have a TV out option, so this actually would be important, unlike the other cameras. This you would need to set, and the rest is pretty much normal. Date time, USB mode. What is it? I like this is the fact that you can supposedly use this as a webcam. But I'm not aware that there's any drivers. I didn't find any drivers, and it didn't come with a disc or anything in this package. It was very basic. What you saw me show you is what it came with. It's a good starter kit, but not much more. So I just keep it on disk drive. Night mode is how you turn the LEDs on or off. They're pretty much always on, always off. That's pretty much it, aside from version here, to see what the version of the camera is, but it's kind of innocuous. If you can divine anything that's useful to you out of that. And that pretty much concludes the physical walkthrough of the camera.